I heard the Cavendish household is hosting a croquet event on their lawn tomorrow.
Did you? I'll have to get invited. With all my wealth, it shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, but you didn't hear it from me, Sir Bentley.
Oh dear.
Simply put, I'm obsessed with obsession. Yes, there's intrigue, there's favors, there's scandal. I mean, it's just so juicy. I love the theme. I think the gameplay is so clean, and it is at heart a really great strategy game. You're kind of building up your family engine, so to speak. And in that card selection and tile drafting mechanism of this game, there's just so much to love about it. So it seems a little overwhelming at first. There's a lot going on. This box is not small. And there are large staple glossary and instructions in the game. Please don't let that deter you from jumping into Obsession, because once you actually start playing, this is a really clean, easy to understand game. The iconography is clear. There are wonderful player aid cards, 6 of them if you count both front and back. You have 3 of these cards, and it tells you what the servant icons mean, what they do, what they look like, round track events, when you pass, what happens and what choices you have, special actions you can do on your turn, and then lastly, all of the iconography is here on the tile card icons and then your victory point references. You need to have these cards at hand, and every single player gets them. This is the builder's market, and essentially where a lot of this stuff happens on the board. This is also in the central area, the Alderley Hall, that has when the game ends and when it triggers all of those events. It also has the victory point cards and the theme cards, and that's really important for the game. What I've got kind of cornered in here, I can pull it aside and you can see this is my individual player board. And it has your board with all of the instructions starting at step 1, order of play. That's another thing I really like about this game. It tells you what to do in the order to do it in, and they're really great reminders. And so it's very easy to see what you do, special actions available, and so everything is so clearly labeled, and it's also really pretty. And then I've got my 5 starting tiles. I've got my character cards that come with my family, and in this case I'm playing the Asquith family, and I get Maud, Dowager Countess of Asquith, which I think you saw earlier in my opening scene. She's very, very judgmental. She listens in on the cad and the gossip talking about their family's business, and she disapproves a lot, as she should. And so I actually have a mother-father, daughter-son, and then I have the countess. So I have 5 cards. Everybody else will start with 4 family members, but they will also get another bonus that I don't get. And I kind of like that about the families. They have one specific thing that they're a little bit better in. Maybe they're wealthy, maybe they have higher reputation, or the other one is starting with more servants. And so you've got all of these starting families, their cards, and their tiles. Now, these tiles in the game are really where the main action happens, and it allows players to engage in activities. It's called Host an Activity. That starts on step 3. So I kind of want to jump in there and just explain a little bit about why this is so fun, why this is such an engaging game. So when you host an activity, you simply take a tile and you place it in the activities section on the board, and you announce to everyone, I'm hosting an activity, it's whist, and it's in the front parlor. I need to invite my guests now, which is step 4. You look at the available characters in your hand and you invite those particular guests. Now, certain guests are going to have requirements. Now, you're not allowed to play a particular character from your hand if you cannot pay that fee or that cost, which is the service. So I'm going to take, as it says here, it needs 2 ladies. I am going to take my mother and daughter. They're going to go to the front parlor and they're going to play whist together. So I set my characters out. I check in the bottom left corner to see if I have to provide any service. And since my starting family, they don't have any service that they need. When guests start coming to my house and they start attending my activities, they might need service. Service could include a lady's maid, a valet, and that's for women and for men. They might also require a butler. And in my case, for my front parlor whist game, it requires that the housekeeper oversee that activity. So I simply place my red pawn onto the space that matches it on my tile. You get favors from the event itself, the activity, and you also get them from your player cards. So I'm going to get 3 reputation. Those are the lions. And your reputation marker is on your order of play area. Everyone is going to start at 1, and you simply have to make 5 steps into the 6th step, essentially, of progress to flip your tile over. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3 steps of reputation. After I've taken the reputation, or whatever favor appears on my tile, on my activity, I then look to my characters, the people that attended, right? My event goers. I'm going to look at the Patricia, Countess of Asquith card. She is my mother, and she gets to do one of 2 favors. You have to choose. She either takes 2 cards from the casual guest stack and then picks one of them, putting the other on the bottom of the deck. And whichever card she picks goes into my active character pile, which gives me more people to send off to activities, which is really, really good. Or I can take a person from my hand and I can kick them out of my deck. Now, why would you want to do that? Probably later in the game, you're going to have gotten some characters of unsavory nature. For example, the 2 characters that started this entire video. I have a cad and I also have a gossip. They are negative points. And you can see how many victory points a card is worth by looking in the top right corner. And so if you want to kick a card out of your deck, you have to do it with your mother of the household. She has the right to kick people out of her house, or with other cards and actions you'll find during the game. And so what that does is it gets those big negative victory point cards out of your hand, but after you've really taken advantage of their bonus. Because usually people who are detrimental to your victory points are really helpful for reputation or money, or in bringing other people to your house through the guest stacks. Then I'll look at my daughter. This is Lady Eleanor Chesterton. She brings 1 casual guest to your house. You just draw the top card, and then if she's accompanied by a prestige guest at any point, which at this time she's not, so it doesn't activate, but if she is, and a prestige guest simply is a guest that has 2 of those symbols right there, the fleur. And so she will get you 2 reputation because she's being escorted by a prestige guest. Everything in this game makes thematic sense, and you just continue building things like gaining more guests to your house, acquiring more servants so that you can take care of more guests as you get like more prestigious guests, right? Your household, they don't have any servant costs, but other guests are going to have those servant costs. And once you use a servant, you put them in the expended service. Now, that means that they are not available next round either, because at the very beginning of each round, you move your servants, and in the next round, you actually get them back in the available service pool. And so you're constantly rotating and planning turns and turns ahead, figuring out what activities can I host, who can I actually invite, and who's going to provide the service for those guests. And how can I really maximize this engine? That's the game. And again, I cannot tell you how much I love this game and how much it makes sense and how much fun I have. After you've placed your expended servants into the expended service area, you are going to take the tile that you used and you're going to flip it over. And you're going to put it back in that particular column that matches the color. Now this changes, usually, what is required, like who can go, and what service is required, and it also changes the victory points. And so usually when you do an event, an activity, your tile becomes of more value to you personally for victory points. And that's so cool, right? You had an event, it was whist, and now more people heard of I heard that, Lady Eleanor and Patricia went to a game of whist. I'd like to go to a game of casino? I don't know. Now it takes 3 ladies to do the same activity. It doesn't necessarily earn you as many reputation points, but it gave you more victory points in the game, which is great. Once you've played characters as they go to an event, you are going to put them in a discard pile, and you're not allowed to play with those characters again until you do the pass action, which is your entire turn. So later on in the game, let's say I want to host a family recital and it's in the music room. So I'm going to take my tile, I place it up in the activity area, and I will populate it with the necessary servants. This is a butler that needs to go there, and it requires 3 gentry. There are a couple keywords here. I'm not going to go over every last keyword or definition in the game, but a really basic one is gentry. That's just people in general. It can be anybody. If it requires ladies, it's ladies only. If it's men, it requires men only. And then if it says family, they have to be family members. And again, this game is fantastic with iconography and with recognizable symbology. So, for example, women have a circle around them in the frame. And if it's a man, they have a square. And then family has the crest in the top left corner. And if you're looking for if it's a casual or a prestige guest, you look for the floors in the top corner as well, and you'll find, they have 1 or they have 2. If it's 1, they're casual. If it's 2, they're prestige. So my music recital requires 3 gentry, and just to give you a little insight into how I experience my game and how I play and really get into the obsession theme, I need to invite 3 gentry to my music room family recital. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite Susan Norris, who is an American heiress. She has negative victory points in the top corner, but she's great for money. She brings in a lot of income. She's pretty bad for reputation though, so she's going to put a ding on my reputation. I'm also inviting Miss Anne Harlow. She's just a wonderful person. She's warm and generous. And then I've also got John, Lord Brooks. He is a prestige guest and definitely interested in business endeavors.
I can't believe they canceled the croquet match. I just hate being indoors.
I do agree heartily, as I'd rather be playing whist. However, I simply adore this family recital. I'd heard they'd considered inviting that cad, Sir Bentley, Derbyshire's finest.
Bentley who?
Oh no dear, don't get mixed up with him.
Harumph.
You should find yourself a nice gentleman like Charles Fairchild. He's not my type.
Anyone have a match?
Do tell me about your father's tobacco fortune, Susan Norris.
Those 3 guests require a couple things to keep in mind. First thing is that I'm not allowed to play any tile or card from my hand that's at a higher reputation than my current reputation. That's why you want to work on your reputation track. So let's say I absolutely did meet that. I am at reputation 4, so that means I could play my music room tile and I could play John, Lord Brooks. He is a level 4. Next, I have to service my people. Here is a lady's maid for Miss Anne. Here is a valet for Lord Brooks. Well, I need another lady's maid, but I don't have one. My housekeeper can serve as a lady's maid for a card if I need to. So I'm going to place my housemaid right there, and now I'm going to enjoy all of the favors of this wonderful music recital that everyone is just having a blast at. There's so much going on in this game that is part of the joy of this world, this pride and intrigue and prejudice. The cards themselves have so much flavor, and I love the pictures. I get really into the hats and the bow ties and the clothes. I mean, it's just so fun and flavorful. I mean, just the attitudes of these people, these guests that you get to invite. It's a blast, and I love the detail of these rooms, these activities that I want. Like, I want certain rooms sometimes and certain things to happen because of my objective cards, because it says things like, if you get the French Garden, which is a pink level 6 tile, then I get bonus 5 victory points. But I also just want the French Garden because it's an afternoon social, it's worth 7 victory points, and I get to have a giant soiree, essentially. I get to invite 7 gentry to this social. That's huge. If I could actually service 7 gentry, and I get the bonus of the prestige guest, and I get to dismiss somebody, which is what that tile says, I am getting all of these favors. I mean, just with these 3 that I just did with my music room recital, I got $900. These guys were bringing in the cash, and $900 can buy me essentially any of these. That's huge. If you can buy really great tiles before other people get to them, I mean, again, it's all about timing. It's about having the right reputation. Buy them, put them here, planning for ahead when you can play them later, and then playing them and playing cards. I find that I'm always on this razor's edge when I play this. I'm always really strapped for cash. I don't know, maybe that's just the way I play. Every single time I play this game, I have done the extra action of spending 2 reputation to get $100, and just $100 is all I need, just to essentially buy the thing that I really need. Again, it might be for an objective and it might be for something else, but there are objectives that every player has that you can use as part of your strategy that nobody else knows you're going for. You get victory point cards with certain cards in the game or during courtship. If you have the most victory points in the theme that's currently in play, you are going to get a victory point card. And if you're the only one who has the most points, so you can tie, but if you have the most, you actually get to put in hand one of these children. These are the nephew and the niece of the main family at Alderley Hall. They are so good to get. Now, you don't get to keep them unless it's the final courtship, in which you get 8 victory points. And that is so good for your game if you can get them in the last courtship phase. But there are 4 courtships in a normal game. So that means that we're going to have 4 of these theme cards that are flipped over. And at the very end, it's going to count all of them. So in the first courtship, it's just the first one. Second courtship, just the second one. And so every time you're drawing tiles, you're having to keep so many things in mind, right? This is, again, the strategy. You are thinking about, well, the tile gives victory points. The tile also is maybe my objective. The tile also fits in with the theme for that particular courtship phase. This game is so replayable. It's just so engrossing. I really like it, and I kind of just want to play it all the time. You should be playing this all the time too. And I know it can be a little challenging to get into. I didn't talk about everything. It's kind of hard to talk about everything. The one thing I would like to mention about the instructions, though, is in the rules they left something out. So you need to go to Board Game Geek and look up this edition. They printed this and they want you to put it in the rules, and it's about the objective cards. So make sure that you get this errata, you get this and add it to your box, add it to your game, and it tells you how to draft and then discard your objective cards. Every time you get to a courtship phase, you should be discarding your objective cards, and it's not explicitly stated in the rules. I think the best way to play Obsession is to play it that first time, learn the game, don't take it too seriously, but start to see those strategies and start to see that player interaction that really heightens your game, because you are all fighting over these builder market tiles. You're all secretly going after these objectives. You are trying to court and win the hand of one of these Fairchilds. There's a number of limited servants for hire, and just as an example, in my last game, there was another player who ate up all the valets, and I didn't get there in time. I did not prioritize getting more servants when I knew I needed them, and I had nothing but male characters in my hand. I had my mom and my daughter from my family, and that's it, and just men for days. Men. And they all needed valets, and so I had to find a way to work around not having valets. One of which was the underbutler. These are special servants that come up only when you have a tile that shows up. This is the tile, Butler's Pantry, gain an underbutler, and it says they may perform any service role. So that means that this could serve as my valet, which was missing. And that was really helpful. The other thing I had too was another one of my service tiles that allowed my footman to be any service that I wanted for a man, which would be a valet. So I essentially had to buy these tiles and invest in actions to kind of mitigate that loss of valets. Now I know that you can flip over your tile for your butler's room and it says you can hire 2 or recruit 1 from any other player. That there is that option. I didn't want to do that. I get a little nobody wants to be too confrontational. It's in the game though. It does allow you to do it, and had I been pressed to even more dire straits because I didn't have access to the butler's pantry or other servant tiles, I probably would have been pressed to do something like that just to get one of those valets in my play area as opposed to their play area. Honestly, if you want to sit down and have a real thinker, a real strategy game with your friends and have a fantastic time with theme, I don't know what else you'd be wanting other than Obsession. This is a great game. It is a fun game, it's a replayable game, and I just want to keep playing it, and I hope you do too once you give it a try. And if you already have played Obsession, let me know in the comments below what your favorite part of this game is. Maybe a funny story about how you play your characters, if it's like the way I see it in my head, or you do it in a different way. Let me know, and I will see you next time.